Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. United States Senator Tom Cotton is on Armed Services and the Judiciary Committee. I want to take those in reverse order. Senator Cotton, good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning, Hugh. It's good to be back on with you.
I have a new Washington Post column out this morning, Senator, on the proposed plea deal, which is before U.S. District Court Judge Mary Ellen Noriega, that's a K, Noriega, in Delaware tomorrow. I am astonished by this. Do you think there is a prayer in the world that there is some way for the Senate Judiciary Committee to get any attention to this proposed plea deal, which should be rejected by the judge, though I don't know that it will be?
The Senate Judiciary Committee, Hugh, no, not with Dick Durbin and the Democrats running interference for the Biden family from start to finish, acting like a phalanx of bodyguards among or for the Biden family corruption. Now, the House Judiciary Committee is a horse of a different color. Jim Jordan, your friend and mine, is the chair there, and he's been doggedly pursuing the corrupt acts of the Biden family. So I do think that they could explore that. And look, I haven't reviewed the ins and outs of the plea deal or what legal basis there may be for rejecting it, but I would compare it to what happened with Mike Flynn, where you had a liberal judge in Washington, D.C., reject the decisions that had been made about the case that was unjustly brought against Mike Flynn. And I'd say that this would be yet another example of how there's seems to be two systems of justice in America, one for liberal Democrats and one for conservatives and Republicans.
Have you seen even one story? And I don't know if the Judiciary Committee has a hearing on guns coming up, but the Democrats care a lot about gun violence, and as do I, but they propose a lot of solutions that won't work. One solution I propose, enforce the laws on the book. One of those laws, if you lie on a federal background check for a gun, you go to jail, often for a long time. They're not even proposing any time on probation for that gun violation by Hunter Biden, much less 3 felony charges on tax evasion, which the tax department, tax division of justice recommended and the IRS agents recommended. I mean, I've never seen a plea deal like this, Senator Cotton.
Hugh, well, first off, I think you're being a little too charitable to the Democrats when you say they care about gun violence, just have bad solutions. I think what they care most about is gun control and disarming law-abiding citizens, because it's like clockwork, Hugh. Every time a Democrat takes the White House, prosecutions for gun crimes fall. I can tell you in the Trump era, there was a serious focus on gun crimes, in part because there are so many felons out there carrying guns in violation of the law, committing other crimes, that you can significantly deter crime if people believe that they're going to face severe consequences. You know, the Trump-era U.S. Attorney in Little Rock told me back in those days that they had audio recordings of criminals on tape saying, don't take a gun into Little Rock, because if you get caught, you're going to do federal time. Yet, when Joe Biden took office, just like when Barack Obama took office, they stopped the enforcement of regular, routine gun crimes, just like you see with Hunter Biden. And as you say, I believe from the plea deal, he didn't even get probation.
No, that's correct.
Yeah, I think it's some kind of diversion agreement. Whereas if he stays clean for a couple of years, then it will be expunged entirely as if it never happened, even though they had him dead to rights lying on a federal form. This is not an example of he said and she said, Hugh. They had him dead to rights lying in writing on a federal form, yet he doesn't even get probation.
Have you seen even one story comparing the average sentence for that crime against no sentence at all, not even probation, nothing for Hunter Biden, diversion? Have you seen even one story doing the comparison?
No, Hugh, because just like the Senate Democrats and the Judiciary Committee, the traditional media is acting like a phalanx of bodyguards for Joe Biden and the Biden family as a whole. They don't want to write these kinds of stories because they're worried about where they may lead. And if they even hinted that they're going to write a story, start covering this, then lefties come down on them like a ton of bricks. I mean, you probably saw Hugh yesterday in the White House after one of Hunter Biden's close friends and business partners alleged that Hunter put his father, Joe Biden, when he was sitting vice president, on the phone with business associates more than 20 times, and the White House spokesman was asked, had he ever been on the phone with his son, responded, he was never in business with his son. that's a very different question than the one that was asked. And
in fact, I want to play that clip for the audience so that they understand. This was a 180 yesterday by Karine Jean-Pierre, who is, of course, the worst press secretary I've ever seen, and I've been following this a long time. But I've never seen anyone so blatantly not answer the question and change the non-answer that they've been using. Let's play that for here, Senator Cotton Harley.
The committee, has evidence that the president in the past communicated directly with foreign business associates of his son Hunter Biden many times. Curious if the White House and the president still stand behind his comment that he's never been involved and has never even spoken to his son about his business.
So I've been asked this question a million times. The answer is not going to change. The answer remains the same. The president was never in business with his son.
All right, Tom Cotton, Senator, have you ever heard that answer before? Because the answer used to be from Joe Biden, I never talked to my son about any of his business dealings.
Yeah, I never talked to my son about his business dealings, which, of course, very much would include talking to my son and his overseas business associates in their crooked deals. Yet when she was asked that question directly, the White House spokeswoman said Joe Biden was never in business. Obviously, that is a screaming implication that, yes, he did, in fact, not only talk to his son, but his son's overseas crooked business partners. You had one New York Times reporter make that observation on social media.
Himself on mute because the connection's still there.
And
did you hit the wrong button, Harley, or Generalissimo, or did the senator put himself on mute? I think the senator put himself on mute.
No,
reconnecting. Okay, we lost the connection. Something went down, and we got to reconnect with the senator, and we will. I do want you to go over. I've linked the column at HughHewitt.com. You can find it at. You can find the connection at WashingtonPost.com opinions. It'll be on the landing page eventually, and it will get thousands of negative comments from
he's there.
The people who always make negative comments about my columns. But there really is no denying that what has happened here is an outrageous. The stuff around Hunter Biden is becoming astonishingly.
Okay, it looks like we did lose Hugh from Studio North. Senator Cotton, where do you think this goes from here?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens with the plea deal tomorrow. I think what's the bigger question is what happens with these allegations by whistleblowers and Hunter Biden's business associates soon when he testifies in front of Congress about the investigation, not into these relatively narrow crimes of lying on a gun form or not paying influence peddling and corruption. And I think those allegations are only growing more serious with every new witness that comes forward and makes it clear that Joe Biden and his family have been treating his public office for 50 years as a way to enrich themselves.
Also in Senate Judiciary over the last week, we saw this piece of legislation pass through Judiciary. I think it's pretty much dead on arrival on the Senate floor, but trying to impose all sorts of new ethics guidelines on the Supreme Court. It seems to me, just from a layman, it's unconstitutional.
Yeah,
okay,
I think.
Oh, we're back, Dwayne. Did I lose you for a while there?
Yes, you did.
Did we lose Senator Cotton?
No, he's still here.
We lost you.
Okay, well, Senator, I want to get to Ukraine before I run out of time. Thank you, Dwayne, for filling in. I don't know what happened there. Senator, I had on Mike Pence yesterday, and I had on Ron DeSantis on Thursday. My theory, my assessment is 70% of the Republican Party supports robust aid to Ukraine, not troops. Maybe 60% lowest. Ron DeSantis said it's 50-50. And now Belarus and Russia is threatening Poland. So two-part question. Where do you think the Republican Party is on aid to Ukraine? And what do you think we have to do if Belarus or the Wagner Group attacks Poland?
So, Hugh, first off, I'd say the vast majority of Republicans across the country support Ukraine, even if we don't support Joe Biden's Ukraine policy. That's where I stand. We all want to help Ukraine succeed in defending its own territory from this unprovoked war of aggression. We wish it hadn't have lasted as long as it already has. A main reason it's lasted so long is because Joe Biden has been so weak and timid from the very beginning. You know, right now, Ukraine's offensive is not going as well as some might have hoped, or going as quickly as some might have hoped, in part because they don't have the kind of fighter jets and air defense systems to help their troops on the ground. Why don't they have them? because Joe Biden's been pussyfooting around the last 18 months, not giving Ukraine what it needs to win. He keeps saying we're going to go or support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Most Republicans would rather see us help them win as quick as they can. The second part of your question, of course, any attack by an adversarial nation against a NATO country has to result in a military action in defense of our NATO partners. And more importantly, we have to be clear about that from the very beginning. The only way to ensure that that attack won't happen is to make it clear to people like Vladimir Putin and Alexander Lukashenko that any attack on a NATO country will be met with a forceful, decisive response. That's the best way to stop such an attack from happening in the first place.
Since Lukashenko, the dictator of Belarus, met with Putin over the weekend and made the threat, the Wagner Group wants to go to Poland. Maybe a joke, maybe not a joke. And then Putin said, well, if they attack Belarus, we are obliged to come to their aid and attack Poland. Nothing has been said from the podium at the White House. What should the president say about the so-called joke?
Clear, firm, decisive warning that any attack on a NATO country will be met with a forceful response. The lessons of history are clear, Hugh, from the Peloponnesian War to World War I and World War II. The way to stop aggression is vigilance, preparedness, and early, firm reaction to aggression.
And NATO, the NATO alliance, Article 5, there is no doubt we have to join in a military response. And I think we have troops in Poland, don't we, Congress Senator?
We do have some troops in Poland, yes, Hugh.
Would you expect them to be involved in repulsing any Wagner group or Belarus or Russian attack on Poland?
We have lots of troops of various kinds all across Europe, as do our partners in places like Poland. I'm confident that we would take a forceful response against any strike against a great nation like Poland.
That's exactly what Joe Biden needs to say, and Vice President Harris and Jake Sullivan, and we haven't heard it said. Senator Cotton, thank you. Sorry for our technical screw-up there. We appreciate that. I hope Dwayne made sense to you. I'll be right back with Brad Thor.